Welcome to Relationship Mastery, a podcast for those who want to learn how to master the art of creating happy, healthy, and loving relationships. Please join me, Adey-Jones, and my co-host, Barry Selby, each Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific for a lively and informative conversation on everything to do with relationships. Hello, everyone. Welcome for another week, another chat here. So we were just saying we would like to talk today about authenticity in relationships. And again, I'm plug the baby reindeer that I watched a couple of weeks ago, and why one of the reasons why I found it so fascinating, besides the sort of subject which we covered last week about obsessive relationships, but was I found his because apparently the show is based on his real life experience. And he had this capacity to just be so, well, I don't know the man, so I don't know, but what I would describe as authentic in the sense that I didn't experience any editing. It didn't come across that he needed to be seen in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like his experience of life was an open book, and he was just like, here I am, warts and all. And because a lot of people had issues with certain things, but it was, to me, as I said, so refreshing that I did not sense that there was an agenda. He didn't care how he was seen. He just wanted to be real and to share his experience, and however you perceived it or however you took him was up to you. So that really struck me. The courage I think it takes to be that open and to be that willing to show yourself in, like I said, every capacity. I think this is so many of us have a fear of being authentic, of really showing ourselves. So,
Absolutely. Well, the word that comes up for me a lot about this conversation is vulnerability.
yeah.
Because being that transparent or authentic in conversation, a lot of times there's a feeling of like overexposing ourselves. And so there is a desire oftentimes for many people to only show people parts of ourselves that we think are the best parts or the nicest parts or whatever it is about us. We don't we don't have to hide sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But we hide so much of ourselves because there's a part of us that feels like perhaps there's a different range on this one. One idea may be that we are afraid that by being fully seen, we actually overwhelm other people. Another side of it would be absolutely that if we show them who we really are, they won't like us, they'll hate us, they'll reject us, whatever that is. Or simply that if we expose ourselves, we may not be ready for what comes back to us.
Mm-hmm.
So there's almost a uncertainty about can we handle somebody else's authenticity and vulnerability. So this is an initial conversation to dive into. There's three ideas. I know, just putting that on the table.
I love that. I'm just taking all that in because I suppose I was thinking more about the one that we do tend to sort of guard ourselves or reveal certain things about ourselves, but from a lack of what's the word I'm looking for? For fear of being vulnerable, for fear of being rejected, for fear of being not accepted. I mean, it's very primal. I mean, we as human beings, we've evolved to be in groups. I mean, groups are protective. To be part of a group is to be safe in the world. So when we reveal certain things about ourselves that we judge as bad or unacceptable, we risk being outed, to being sort of, not part of the group, not part of the tribe. Therefore, we're much more vulnerable on a really deeply psychological level, not just with the person that you're in a relationship with, but on a societal level. That am I safe? Can I survive in this world if I'm not with another person or with a group that accepts me?
Well, the thing about sorry for you.
No, I was just going to say, but you brought up two other really good points. So I'd love to explore those a little more too.
Well, I want to throw on the piece because we mentioned this. I mean, I think it's about the idea that somehow there's safety in conformity.
Mm-hmm.
There's a sense of just if we don't make waves, don't stir the pot, don't stand out from the crowd, because if that happens, we might be either seen by everybody and that will scare the bejesus out of us, or that we might be persecuted somehow or might be punished for that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's better to be in the mass and sort of keep a head down amongst the crowd So to actually shine a light and be visible and be bright, which frankly I encourage everybody to do,
Mm,
feel very risky because there is that fear about, will we be persecuted? Will we be um, prosecuted? Will we be rejected? Will, all these different things.
yeah.
And yeah, there is that sense also that if somebody does that to us, do we start rejecting them?
Mm, yeah.
Huh?
It's so fascinating. And what you also, this one of the things you brought up in the beginning is you said that some of us are, we don't want to overwhelm another person.
Hmm.
That's interesting because that's yeah, I think I don't know if that's a common fear of overwhelming other people. Would you say that that's common?
I'm not on a survey, so I can't give you actual information. However,
Wondering if
I
it's more.
maybe speaking from personal experience,
Yes,
but the sense, but that's the thing is that the framework we carry in ourselves of comparative nature when we compare ourselves to other people. So we then make up stories about other people, of course, because we don't necessarily ask the questions to find out about them. So maybe this is just maybe one of my stories, that being that visible, that bright, might deter or put off or push away other people
Mhm.
that I would rather be seen by or close to or respected or loved by. So it's like, don't, as was it Marion Williamson talks about, don't hide your light under a bushel. But
Mhm.
it's almost like you have to do that to feel like you could fit in.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting because the reason I'm picking it up is because I'm think we've talked about this before about our childhoods and the way we were
Hmm.
raised, and I'm sure at some point that was put in your little Barry's mind when he was little, not to overwhelm people.
Well, I get. Well, that's the other thing. Being, as I said, one of the opposite about being bullied. One of the things about to avoid being bullied, I would hide out. So it was literally, it wasn't about just hiding my lies, but hiding myself
Yeah,
to minimize the amount of, ridicule, beating up, bullying, all those things that could happen if I got seen.
yeah,
So you definitely, there was wiring that I took on personally in my teen years. That shining brightly was definitely not something to do because it risked being hurt physically. So
yes,
there's a definite literal, connection between the two.
yeah. Oh, definitely for me too. I mean, the sort of the shame I felt as a child of being sort of called a little bastard. It was like stay hidden,
Hmm.
stay down. Um,
Yeah.
it was safer to hide. And there's certain phrases as well. I have one of my teachers is Australian, and she always talks about tall poppy syndrome. That the tall poppies, the ones that stand out, will
Hmm.
get cut down. They're the ones that get cut down. So to blend in with everybody, as you say, is to remain a medium-sized poppy. And
Indeed.
so think about some of the things that my mother used to say to me, things like sort of, don't get too big for your boots, or what was it, the higher you climb, the further you fall, or there was all these things about staying,
Right.
and also going to a Catholic girls' school. I remember the nuns used to say, if you're invited to a dinner, sit at the worst table so that somebody can always invite you to sit at a better seat, sit at the worst seat rather at the table, so you can be invited to a higher seat. Never go for the higher seat, then be told you have to go to move. And just these cultural trainings that
Absolutely.
I certainly experienced about staying small, hiding out, not revealing yourself. And
Well, it's also, don't create ripples.
yeah,
It's like, don't upset the apple cart. I mean, because growing up growing up in England, just something crossed my mind is that there was, even the temple I went to, as being a Jewish kid, was the men and women sat separately, and I couldn't violate that rule. I couldn't sit next to my mum. I couldn't sit. It's like you couldn't do that. It wasn't allowed. And so we stuck to those rules. And yet, the insanity of that is like, why? There's no benefit ultimately, except somebody gets to make the rules and then has people abide by them, so they feel a sense of control. You know?
that's another show.
Oh yeah.
um, So going back to the authenticity, the being
Yes, indeed.
relationships for a second, it's we do it when we first meet somebody, when we first go on our first date with somebody. It's like we I think we edit ourselves. We
Mhm.
Well, some of us do and some of us don't. I mean, I was aware when I was younger that I used to have maybe I didn't do it within the first month, but usually by month two or month three, I would be actually my worst self possible. I would let you know how bad I could be
Okay.
because I thought to myself, well, if you still like me or love me after that, then I feel safe. So it was a way of me testing the waters to see if because I think because I did believe I was damaged or broken in certain ways, or that it was almost like, well, like I said, it's like this is as bad as I can be. Do you still like me? Would you still accept me and still love me? So it can work the other way sometimes.
So
But
basically, you're testing them to see if they'll stay with you
yes,
in a way.
yes, rather than sort of keep the skeletons hidden. It was like, okay, there's lots of skeletons, so I'm going to open those doors, and they're all going to come out and see if
You
you
should have
can
more in your face.
see if you can handle them. If you can handle them, then I know, then I feel safe with you. So there was a
Right.
part of me that actually, I used to call myself like an emotional flasher. It was like, that sort of the whole,
Yeah.
like you got the trench coat on, and you sort of flash and you're naked underneath, and then you close the trench coat and go running off. Well, I used to feel that about emotionally. I would like sort of hold things in. Then all of a sudden it'd be like, okay, here you go. And I'd flash, and then I would want to cover up again and run,
Hmm.
because again, it was that emotional sort of exposure was too intense. It was like, am I going to be judged? Am I going to be ridiculed or left or whatever it was, attacked? That I feared. But at the same time, as I said, keeping that part hidden was too much of a burden to bear. It was like, let's get this over and done with. Here I
Hmm.
am. Do you still care about me? Would you still want to be with me?
In fact, on top of that, another part of authenticity as well is about being honest,
Hmm.
because it's about being truthful and speaking what's real. The challenge, and I know for myself, definitely in my own, well, friendships and in dating, is less now, but certainly in the past, would be where I would withhold a lot about who I was and not tell all the truth. Like it's not that I would lie, but I wouldn't tell all of the facts about something just to sort of keep myself from being too exposed, too seen.
Hmm.
The thing about authenticity is, in a sense, is almost like it's like tell the truth, tell no lies, be really transparent that way, so that what you say is who you are and it matches.
Yeah.
Because being authentic is that alignment, so there's a total integrity with what your words, deeds, and actions will come together as.
Hmm.
But it's something that for some people is extremely hard to do, especially at the beginning. It wasn't a skill set I had for many years because it wasn't what was safe to do.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so I remember watching this. I think it was a show anyway, and it had celebrities on it, and it was a drummer, and I'm not going to say his name because I'm going to forget it. But he said, "I'm the most honest person you will ever meet." He said about everything, who he was, everything, and
Okay.
he said the reason I do that, he said, because if you tell sort of one lie or untruth, or you hide something, you have to remember so much. You have to
Yeah.
remember how you presented yourself or what you've said. And he said, I'm just too lazy for that. It's just like I can't keep up with the false pretense. It's
Yeah.
too much of an effort. So he was just sort of like out there. This is who I am again, warts and all. And there was something, so I thought, God, that's so true. When you just are who you are, there's nothing to hide, defend, keep up. But so many of us, especially in the beginning of a relationship, do have this conditioning of, we have to present a certain mask, we have to do certain things or say certain things that make us acceptable. And
Hmm.
and then, that's why I say, when people say, oh, I fell in love at first sight, or I've even had, not so much lately, thank goodness, not at my age, but when I was younger, I had friends that were like, I've met the love of my life. And it's like, you don't even know them, because everybody
Hmm.
has this, not everybody, but most people have this false image they project for the first few months of a relationship. That's why I would say, just, you have to at least spend a year with somebody to really see them through so many of life's situations, to really know who this person is.
That is, I mean, it's fundamental ultimately. And to go back to saying for that drummer, and that's, I think I've said for many years as well, about the idea about telling the truth so much easier. You have to remember less things.
Yes,
Whereas
exactly.
if you are telling lies, you do have to keep this construction of this house of cards in your head. Say, who did I tell what to, and who did I say this to, and all these different things to make it, frankly, like mental gymnastics is such a pain to keep track of things. So being transparent all the way through and totally honest means that anybody asks you anything, you know what to say because it's what you know already. So it
Exactly.
is so much easier, frankly, to be blatantly honest than it is to make up stuff in the first place.
And it's also when we are really authentic about who we are. I mean, number one, it's an incredible statement of self-acceptance because
Hmm.
you're not editing and you're not trying to carve yourself into what you think is a desirable partner or mate or whatever. But the other
Yeah.
thing is you really find your tribe and you find your person. When we're pretending that we are other than who we really are, we're just wasting time. I mean, we
Yeah.
really are. It's like I said, it's sort of the mental gymnastics of number one, having to sort of keep tabs on everything you've said or what you've presented. But it's also when we do have these false personas that we put out, these masks, these social masks we put on when we first meet somebody. And then as they start to drop away, and the other person starts to get to know you, and that's why a lot of relationships do have that sort of 3-4 month mark. It's like
Yeah.
the first 3-4 months, it's just everything is great because everybody's on their best behavior and they're presenting this side of themselves that they believe is what the other person wants. But once we start, those masks start dropping away, and that's why I suggest they drop away much sooner than the 4 month mark, because you just wasted so much time pretending to be
Yeah.
this idealized self, misleading the other person. Is just be real, be who you are, let them know who you are. And it's either a fit or it isn't. I have so many clients that are so afraid to be themselves in the beginning of a relationship. It's heartbreaking actually that they don't believe that they are perfectly fine just as they are, and that there is somebody for everybody. You don't have to fit into this sort of social form of you've got to be like this to attract a partner. Just be real, be who you are.
Absolutely. That is sage advice. I'll put it that way. It is so clear, and it is. I wish it was something that everyone abided to, but it's so amazing how people don't understand that it's actually easier and better and healthier
Mm-hmm.
to be seen because, like you said, the risk can feel like you're going to lose everybody, but the reality is you will find your tribe. You will find those who match and mirror you. They'll become your lifelong friends. And so the in crowd you're trying to fit in with because you're making up a story about yourself to tell them will only last as long as you're willing to hold it together, which is hard work. And when you recognize that this group of crowd you're hanging out with is all a house of cards, it's all made up stuff, it's all pretend, it doesn't work anyway. So to really stay true to yourself and be authentic in all your expressions, you will definitely find that the ones who don't match will fall away. The ones that do match will show up. And you'll create a community and a clique or a group that will become your besties.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely being authentic.
Yeah, yeah. And the stress, the strain of suppressing. So, I mean, yeah, we all have personality traits that are, sort of more challenging for some people than other people. I mean, some people like a bit of drama in their lives, and they don't want, they don't want vanilla. They want somebody that's, maybe a little more spicy or whatever. But again, it's just if you are denying that part of yourself and shutting it down, it's going to come out sideways, especially if you are like, I'm thinking of a client I have that you know it, she wants to pretend she's not demanding, but I would say that she is somebody that has certain demands. There's nothing
Hmm.
wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Let the
Right.
person know. Some people might say, "Oh, that's not for me." You're too hard work or whatever it is. Whereas other people are like, wow, I love that you're strong and you're opinionated and you have certain things that you want in life and you're not embarrassed or ashamed about voicing them. But it's so much better to just let everybody know that's who I am. It's just part of who I am. I'm not saying,
Yeah.
sort of certain behaviors that you would like to sort of moderate or change slightly, that you just sort of are rude or obnoxious in your relationships. But the more truthful you are about maybe you are emotional, instead of being like, I knew when I was younger, I um, I tried to be so cool about everything. And that was
Hmm.
a lie because I had very strong, intense emotions. But I pretended because I was so afraid of my emotions being too overwhelming for somebody that I would pretend to be super cool. I'm so cool with everything. And now I'm like, no, I can be a bitch. I can be bitchy, and it's okay. Not, I mean, I'm not really bitchy, but yeah, I'm emotional. I have highs and lows for sure. And pretending to be anything other than that is just, it's exhausting.
Right. Is it's That's the thing again. I want to underscore that point. Is the effort it requires to keep this house of cards, this false premise alive, to fit a scenario, a job, a relationship, is so antithetical to one what we talk about in this work anyway, about being really authentic and being true, but also the stress it's going to take on the toll it's going to take on your body and your mental capacity. The price is too high, frankly. So, some people say it's so hard to be authentic, to be real, to be truthful. It's like it's so much easier to be authentic and real and truthful because it's less stress on your body. It's actually more relaxing because you start to let go of all the made up stuff that we carry around. It's freeing, frankly.
I'm thinking back to the show we did a few, I don't remember, a couple of months ago, maybe now, on the shadow. I mean, that again, it's what we're talking about here. Really, is the shadow, is the accepting of all aspects of ourselves and embracing it all instead of deciding that. Again, quoting Debbie Ford, she'd say we're born into this mansion. In every room is a different aspect of us, sub personalities, and but we've been trained and conditioned to say, oh no, being emotional is bad, or being greedy is bad, or being whatever it is, that we've decided that there's certain aspects of our humanity that are unacceptable. And when
Hmm.
we try and hide those, like the beach ball, we try and push it down under the water. We have to keep our attention on it. We have to keep our focus on it and our effort to keep it down. Whereas if we are just human and we embrace all of it, and just like, yeah, I'm human. I have good days, bad days. I have, days when I'm a certain way that I'm not exactly proud of, but it's a part of who I am. And then
Hmm.
everything relaxes, nothing comes out sideways. Like I said, when we push those certain parts of our personality down and deny them, that pressure, we can't keep it on, and it's going to come out sideways. And those are the people that explode in an overwhelming way. You do blow somebody else out of the water instead of just being sort of normal and real and riding that wave of sort of normal human feelings up and down and whatever. That we when we suppress that, it's like it's a buildup of pressure, and then we can explode on the other person, and they've done nothing to deserve it. It's us that have done all that controlling and pushing down.
Absolutely. It is again, it's like the way to have ease and grace is to not make it harder for yourself. And this, I mean, through all of our shows, talks about this in different ways about how to be more authentic in your own self and in your own relationship with yourself. It is the only way through, frankly. I mean, it was the lesson I had to learn, as I said before, about my own journey in teams was different. But what I've discovered is even now there's room for improvement. There's always a refinement because, yes, I don't go and tell everybody everything about myself. I'm not that level of authentic where I'm going to tell people in the grocery store or somebody at the gym or somewhere else that, this is who I am. It's like, no. But
Mm-hmm.
in conversations where I want that level of connection and, yes, intimacy, being authentic is one of the best ways to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking out there for love and a relationship and you want more intimacy, we're not just talking about sex here. Intimacy is not sex alone, just to be clear. One of the ways you can do that is to be totally honest with them and have them be honest with you. That authentic connection, including the good, bad, and ugly. It's being totally transparent and present with each other is the greatest intimacy you can create with somebody else.
Yeah, but you're also bringing up a really good point. Is that as much as it's healthy to be honest and truthful and authentic about who we are, but we also, there are certain, like you say, sort of situations where we do have social masks, say
Yes.
in our work environment, or say in the grocery store or something like that. You know, be so sort of overwhelming and somehow sort of emotionally vomit over other people with our truth or our authenticity. Sometimes it's not appropriate.
Right.
So we're not saying that you're always running around completely naked, showing showing everybody everything about yourselves. There's a time and a place, but when we're talking about relationships here. We're talking about friendships. We're talking about our families, being honest and authentic within our families, and having room, as much as we give ourselves permission to be authentic and show up in all our humanity, to have the same generosity for certainly our partners and our friends, but also other members of our family.
Hmm.
It's our right to be who we are, and it's their right to be who they are,
Absolutely.
to fit into these, structures or molds that either society or our families have made for us.
Yeah. So in that case, especially with family as well, there's going to be a spectrum or an array about how vulnerable, how authentic we are with every person. You may be more authentic with a sibling, with a parent or grandparent.
Yeah.
So there's definitely, this is not to say you paint everybody with the same brush.
Mm-hmm.
It really is about discernment, about where you are totally authentic. Not that you make up stories or lie to people, but again, it's like I said earlier, in my own experience, I don't always tell all the truth about everything. I may just tell some of what's going on. And so you have to gauge for yourself who the people are that you want to do that with, how far you want to be risking your vulnerability with, your authenticity with.
Mm.
So be wise in this too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we don't want to get fired. You don't want to be
Yeah, definitely.
authentically telling your boss exactly what you think of them might not always go down really well.
Right. But, and a little caveat, and it's funny because I'm in the middle of reading a book right now on leadership. It talks about you have to have a mutual space of intimacy, a mutual space of trust, be able to communicate this sort of thing. At the same time, when you do communicate, we talked about this before in other episodes, about taking ownership of the language, meaning that when you're talking about something where somebody isn't necessarily working with your boss, you speak about your own experience of that, not they did something wrong,
Mm-hmm.
because that's not the healthy way to do it. It's about really saying, when you did that, I felt this, my experience was this. So that way they can experience what you felt. So that way there's a level of ease of being transparent and authentic, but you're not treading on toes or attempting to diminish your boss, because that wouldn't be helpful. So again, navigation requires some skill.
And the other thing is, like, as you're saying that, I'm thinking about this sort of the authenticity in the sense of, you're truthful about how you perceive yourself, and rather than, it's like, I'm going to authentically tell you who you are. No, that's not authenticity.
Yeah, that's a better way of doing that.
And and to just know that we all have thoughts. It doesn't make it real. Just that,
Hmm.
because your thoughts are filtering your experience of another person through your lens, doesn't mean that it's real. It's just your experience. So again, authenticity doesn't mean blowing somebody else out of the water and telling them what you think of them. That's not authenticity. That's
Yep.
not ownership of your experience and how you are experiencing, life or another person. So yeah, definitely there are caveats to this.
Yes. So with awareness and with self support, you can do this, but also not carte blanche. You've got to be somewhat disciplined as well.
Mm, definitely. All right then. Well, I think that was a good show there.
Yeah, I think so. Good topic to discuss.
Exactly. So yeah. So again, for those people that are just newly single or out there dating, just be yourselves. Just
Mm,
saves a lot of time and a lot of wasted time just by being you. You'll find your people. You'll find your tribe. So
absolutely. You
lovely.
can have it. Cool.
All right. Well, we'll see you all next week. Thank you so much again, Barry. Have a great week.
Thank you, Dylan. Great.
Bye
See
bye.
you then. Bye. We trust you enjoyed this episode and invite you to share this with your friends and loved ones. In fact, please subscribe to our Relationship Mastery podcast. That way you'll get each new episode fresh and shiny as soon as it is released. We'd love to hear from you as well. So go ahead and enter your questions and comments at relationshipmastery.show. Take good care. We will connect with you in our next episode of Relationship Mastery.